So if there is an ammonia release, um, you need to fill in the gaps on this. The red material is, what are you going to train your employees? Ammonia is being monitored by what? What is your system at your location? How is it being monitored? What kind of an alarm will sound? How will people recognize that alarm? Who's going to make a call, and that call to whom? And when heard, emergency actions must be taken. What are those actions? So again, you need to fill in this. So what is the specific set of steps, the emergency procedures at your company? Now, certainly when an alarm sounds, you stop working, period, done, over, things get shut off. You go to some predetermined location, which is contingent on wind direction. You've got a backup location. Who's responsible for what activities? How do you know who's on site and who's not on site? Because you don't want to be assuming, wow, where's Steve? Because he's not here at the site and I just happen to be out at lunch. I have no idea there's an emergency and everybody's looking for him. Or there's an emergency personnel sent back in to find me. Well, how do you avoid that kind of thing? That can be very difficult in a large facility. How do you know who's there and who's not? With computer technology today and the ability to monitor people with ID badges and things that can have electronic monitoring chips and you check into different locations, it is easier to do that. But still, a lot of companies don't have really effective personnel control. And it's a bit of guesswork in terms of who's really there and who's not. That can be improved at a lot of companies, in my opinion. So you get out of there quickly. If somebody is overcome, don't go back for them. Emergency personnel with the proper protective equipment must go back. And then you wait for further instructions. Once you reach the location where you're supposed to stay, you should be given further instructions by some previously designated leader that's going to meet the employees at this collection site, at this congregation site, I should call it. While you're evacuated, pay attention to wind direction. Whenever you have anhydrous ammonia, you should have a wind sock posted in a very easy to spot place. Remember that ammonia searches for moisture. Emergency crews will be coming from which direction and how do they come onto the site? What kind of gates do you have? Can they approach from the upwind side or if necessary from the other side? How do they make sure that they're not driving in to the wrong side? Make sure you're accounted for and dismissed properly. So you don't just say, well, I got out of there, jump in your car and leave. This is chaos around here. Nobody knows what they're doing. I'm getting out of here. No, you make sure that the proper people know you got out and you don't go anywhere until you are dismissed. Because you don't want people confused about who is where. Do not return to work until, again, fill in the blanks. All this red stuff is for you to set up your training for your company. So you get an all clear, maybe it was a false alarm, maybe it was a minor leak, and now it's time to go back to work. How does that process occur? Or are you being dismissed to go home? And that, it might be something where you've got to be out of the area and you're out for a half an hour, 2 hours, and then you go back to work. Or it might be something where there's a serious issue and you don't go back to work. You go home and you don't report back until you're told it is safe to do so. Maybe the next day, maybe it takes a couple of days to fix the problem if it's sufficiently severe. Drills. So how do you perform emergency drills? You've got to practice, you've got to prepare. You've got to make sure that everybody not only knows what to do, but they've practiced enough that they are very, very clear that they can do it when they're in a panic mode, when everything is a real emergency and not just a practice drill. You've got to make sure that participation is mandatory. It's just a damn drill. We don't have to do that. No, these are serious drills. This is not just, how would I compare it? A lot of people don't take seriously things like the Great American Shakeout or whatever it's called. We just had a drill, a statewide drill for earthquake safety, and some places did it, some places didn't. Some places took it seriously, some semi-seriously, some not at all. You can't have that kind of whatever attitude, and some people are serious and some are not. When you're doing ammonia safety, it is serious. You have it planned, scheduled, everybody's required to do things, and there has to be some sort of disciplinary action, something severe enough to mandate participation. And if there are things that, a couple of people can't participate in the drill because of some reason, there might be something happening or somebody has to make sure they're doing X, Y, Z. You know about that in advance, and their supervisor knows, and anybody who might run into them know that they are responsible for a particular activity during the drill. Anyway, but that has to be rare. In conclusion, the potential for exposure to ammonia is isolated. It is not something that is widespread, although depending on the wind and the severity of the leak, it can be a large area, but it's still a contained area to an extent based on wind and weather patterns. It's not something that keeps going everywhere. It's only in concentrated areas that are the serious problem. Preparation is key in case of an accidental exposure. Oops. Ammonia must be taken seriously and considered dangerous because it is. Ammonia will seek out water in the atmosphere and anywhere else, eyes, nose, lungs, mouth, everywhere. Preparation is the difference between an accident and a disaster. If you are prepared and something happens and you get the heck out and everybody's safe, maybe you've got a couple of people getting some medical treatment, but everybody goes home. That's way different than 4 people dead and 25 hospitalized because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. So that's the train the trainer.